All right, and what are we doing here? Roundtable leadership? Leadership roundtable?
Mike is on.
Okay.
So,
give us a cue in. Are we ready? Yeah, it's ready to go right on the fly. This is fun stuff.
I go on the fly all the time.
I know, that's how we do. That's the way it is. Are we ready?
ready? In 3, 2, 1.
Good afternoon and welcome to Udicci.TV. Today we're doing yet another episode of Leadership Roundtable, and I'm here with my supreme, all-friend, all-knowing, Peter. Peter's
all-knowing. Stop you at the all-knowing.
Yeah, stop
you were going good there. But
right up until that point.
Yeah.
So this is going to be our second opportunity here to try to do some leadership conversations, and next up time we're going to have a guest on the show.
Yep.
Which is going to be kind of fun.
An executive coach,
which can be a lot of fun to really see how far we can take this. And so this week we're still working on some pacing, but we are going to go through some very real topics and kind of figure out how that goes. So we may as well just drop right into it. Today, you said you wanted to talk about global leadership.
Global leadership.
And I know you also use the term cross-cultural leadership, which I like that term, but I kind of get it. But why don't you talk a little bit about what you mean by global leadership and cross-cultural leadership?
Yeah, I think that global leadership and cross-cultural leadership can be used interchangeably. So when we speak of global leadership, we're speaking of a leadership that's not only worried about local activity, but that's also global activity. When we say cross-cultural leadership, we're talking about leaders who can work across.
Yeah, no, we're good. We're good. Just a little off-camera cues going. We got to turn the volume down over here. So that's cool.
It's all good. But cross-cultural leadership focuses on effectiveness among and across, different borders and traditions. So.
Yeah, right, and that was exactly how I understood it when you sent it, was the idea that we don't have to be restricted by necessarily what we know, what we understand, because there's principles that are going to apply across the board. And if we take those principles and put them into work, then it's truly global in nature, and that there are no, and global doesn't necessarily mean the world, although it does, but it actually is just, these are just very apt principles, principles that work regardless of personal experience.
Yeah, so let's make it more tangible for the audience. Let's say we are in Rochester, New York, but they are different little towns or suburbs or cities, have you, Gates, Henrietta, Brighton. So let's say if you lived in Brighton, but you want it to be global. Well, it doesn't mean that you have to go to South Africa. It means that you can probably work and develop people in all those other towns or cities I just mentioned. Because some people have the mindset that their leadership is just for in-house, for their organization, for their sphere of influence. But really, we are all called to influence as much as we can. And so that could be local, but with a global mindset, meaning I'm going to extend as much as the world will permit me to extend.
I like that example because I know in corporations, and like you said, we may be in our own little culture, but we want to be able to lead outside of that culture. So real quick, we're going to take a quick sponsor break just to kind of cue up the next segment. And as we go to break here, Tim just wants you to know that he says, hello, Peter, just in case you haven't seen this little thing over here. Anybody who's watching, if you actually wanted to, you can go ahead and key in your name. You can put in a fake name if you want. And you can ask questions. You can add comments as we go through that. So with that, we're going to go to a quick sponsor break, and we'll be right back where we're going to talk about diversity, creativity,
innovation.
And innovation. All right.
So people can. Are we off? Or?
Yeah. No, well, we're actually we're.
They can people. How can they watch one on the Udicci website?
Yep. If they go to the Udicci.TV, it's actually live on YouTube. But most of the stuff we're finding right now, people that we're doing, they're coming right to Udicci.TV, and they don't have to sign up for an account. They can just kind of, it's a temporary thing. They can. We'll allow them shortly to sign up for account. We just don't have everything launched on that side of things. But right now they can just put in their name and begin interacting with us. So, all right. So, and let us know when you're coming back. And All right, so we're going to come back, and today I kind of labeled this next segment "Recipe to Lead," and you'll kind of get to where why we went with the recipe to lead. But
Getting hungry.
I know, yeah, exactly, right. We're down here at Blue Bar and Grill. If you guys want to come out for lunch someday, join us up here. We're going to be doing these seminars on a regular basis, kind of bring your businesses out. But yeah, so recipe to lead. And as we said earlier, this kind of global leadership, it has some principles which allow you, if you begin to apply these principles and think through these principles, they kind of open you and free you from the boundaries. And we talked earlier, it's diversity, creativity, and innovation. And we're going to start with diversity. So why don't you start with diversity?
Yeah, diversity is basically having, if we're talking about recipe, it's like having a soup of leadership. You want to have all your different vegetables in there. You want to have all your different meats or flavors or seasonings. In the Hispanic culture, we call it adobo and sazon, right? All the different, you know about that?
In my house, I call it the orange box.
Exactly. But then you have green boxes, brown boxes.
I gotta learn those boxes.
Yeah.
I've learned the one that's orange, and yeah, I do use it. It's
Exactly.
fantastic.
Exactly. So, that's diversity in leadership, having all those different ingredients, in our terms, people. So we want to have, brown people, white people, light people, yellow, whatever the case. So we want to bring that diversity. Diversity means different mindsets, different personalities, different culture, different forms of thinking, right? And we get to see through other people's lenses, right? Because I have glasses on, and if I give you these, you'll probably be blind, so I'm not going to do that. But you have lenses, although you don't have glasses on. You
Right.
have a worldview. Right?
Absolutely. And it's and I use this saying, phrase, whatever. It's from the Oz Principle, which was a book that was written in 1995, I believe, a multi-million selling bestseller book. But it's simply this. It says our experiences in life create the beliefs that we have, and those beliefs that we have kind of drive the actions that we take. And of course, the actions we have give us the results that we want in life. So from that, it's such a basic concept when we allow it to be that our life experience leads us to think a certain way, and we found good and bad from those thoughts, right? And if we want to get rid of some of the bad, we kind of got to start thinking and acting a little bit differently. But that's exactly what I think I hear you saying right now, is that the diversity, it's not about skin color, it's not about religion, it's not about ethnicity, it's actually about the way we think. And if we could begin just opening our minds up to all these different things that are around us, maybe we can start enjoying those seasonings a little bit more and kind of seeing life. I mean, I want to see life through your eyes. Maybe not all of it. Maybe not what's in the mirror in the morning, but, I definitely want to see,
I don't even want to see that.
Right, exactly. So, hey, I want to see life through other people's eyes because they see beauty that I don't.
Yeah.
They see good in other people that I don't. But same thing, I see good in other people, they don't. And I want to be able to do that. So I think that's what I hear you saying right now, is that diversity is a matter of us allowing ourselves to accept, or at least consider greatly, the opinions and the experiences of others.
Yeah. It's a renewed mindset, right? You got to be transformed by your mind. I mean, I heard T.D. Jakes the other day say, there's nothing more powerful than the renewed or transformed mind. I was like, that is so powerful, because it's true. The way you think, that's the way you are. And it comes down to your attitude as well. There's authors, I forgot their names right now, but they're from Thunderbird Business School, and it's one of the most prominent business schools in America. And they say that in order to be global, you have to have a global mindset. But it starts with your mindset. It starts with your thinking. It starts with how you process. And so if you think that you know everything, if you think that your culture, your tradition, and who you belong to, know it all, have it all, are, then really you're doing a disservice to your business, to your organization, to your company, to whatever, company you belong to, and even your group or your leadership, even your own home, because then you have a one-sided mind thought.
Imagine being born in one house, right? And maybe your parents let you go out and play in the yard, and maybe you even meet a couple neighbors, but you never leave the neighborhood. You never leave the neighborhood. You think that everything you've experienced in life in that neighborhood, that's everything. And all of a sudden, one day, you're actually put on a plane, and you're sent to another city. I mean, you'd be overwhelmed, but that's exactly it. Like, if we start to think that our own neighborhood is what there is to the world, we've so limited it. And that's what I love when I start thinking about it, is how many cultures exist in this world. And those cultures are almost at the neighborhood level when you start to get to other communities around the world. I want to get on and talk a little bit, now we talk about diversity and creativity and innovation. So let's go on to creativity. So real quick, this is one of the spots where we're just going to do a quick control Q. And let me know when that does. Now that's just a little on-camera direction, so we're good with that. So let's continue right on now to the recipe for the next one you talked about is diversity, and I know we've been talking about that difference there, but how does diversity lead to creativity?
Yeah, well, creativity comes from different mindsets, from different thoughts and resources and training and experiences and exposure. So how can you be creative? And let me you can be creative by yourself, but you can be more creative with other people. And so the more diverse you are, the more diverse your company organization is, potentially you have a great foundation for creativity. Because if Chuck and I get together and, like they say, 2 minds is better than 1. Well, how about we throw 100 in there? How about we throw 5,000? I mean, you have so much potential for creativity. It just gives you that awesome, advancement for competitive advantage.
I think when you first explained to me the whole idea of embracing diversity for the sake of creativity, that to me was like one of those aha moments. And it's one of those things that we get all day long. And again, we just use the neighborhood idea, we use the food idea. But, think about just art over the years, right? I mean, the other day I went to a concert. I went and saw Robert Randolph play, right? And it was interesting to me to hear one of the opening bands, actually his blues band, break out into a Jimi Hendrix. And all of a sudden it was one of those aha moments like, oh yeah, Jimi Hendrix so heavily influenced by the blues, yet he created this whole new genre, right? And it was like that creativity, it's very rarely is there anything new. There's just a different spin on something that just sparked in an individual. Like, wait a second, I hear this in this music, and I want to bring it to a new level. So the diversity, when you explain that to me, that diversity really is what helps creativity thrive. That's something I really want to embrace and be able to bring to more organizations. And how do we actually help people embrace diversity for the sake of creativity? And we'll explain the benefit of it in a minute, but how do we do that?
Well, I think that you have to be able to give those other people an opportunity to share their ideas, an opportunity to, be able to expose their experiences and their knowledge with you. So it's a safe playground. It's you come as you are and show us who you are and what you know, and we will be transparent with one another. Is that one of those words we used last week or the other week? And we will work together to make the best. You know what? I can pull the best out of you, and you can pull the best out of me. And sometimes we need somebody from the outside to actually see what we have in the inside. And you should tweet that. Whoever's watching, you should tweet that. Sometimes we need somebody else to show us from the outside what we have in the inside. Did I say that? Is that what
I don't know, but the great thing is it's on film. So now we can go back and find. But no, it was actually very good. And that, I think, is it. I don't know, my business partner Tim and I, we do that very well. We're able to kind of allow each other to express. Now, if you were in the room with us, you'd think we were idiots, right? But we kind of are just allow ourselves to take that time to, okay, well, I got this thing, and it comes out. And it is. It's like it starts to bring out the best in one another, because you have somebody who's not assuming your opinion's wrong, they're like, okay, I trust that you've got a good opinion. Let me help you develop that. Which is the weirdest thing, is when that gets back to last week. You got to trust other people. You got to be a little bit vulnerable in leadership. But it's a great thing when that starts to come out. That transfer.
And we will say that it builds teamwork. It continues to build the camaraderie and the culture of the organization. It just you're just allowing people to be themselves, and you know what that produces? Engagement. That produces. We're going to touch innovation in this segment, or
we're going to go to innovation next. Actually, why don't we get ready for the innovation there? And let's go to innovation and kind of get done with that. And so, are we good with going to innovation here? All right, good. We're on innovation, because that was a great segue. So go to innovation.
Sure. So, I think that creativity goes right along with innovation. So as you are creative, you are building or making new products, new ideas, new services. So any company, any organization, whether profit or nonprofit, you could be a 500 company or you could be a church. It doesn't matter. You have to innovate. You have to be creative.
Yes.
So you cannot continue to do the same things the same ways for long periods of time, because you know what? We are people of change. We are people that evolve.
And rapid change today.
Oh, and rapid change. Because
Rapid
of technology and science and just the advancements that we have, you know. So, but why would you want to stay behind? So what creativity and innovation does, it produces a change in us, a transformation, a transition, if you will, to never go back. Once you got a smartphone, you never went back to a dumb phone, right?
Right. No, absolutely. Right.
Once you went from, let's say, iPad, you know, like you don't go back. I mean, email. Who goes back now to writing letters? Well, once in a while.
Once in a while you
but
do.
that's
Right,
not the norm anymore.
That's not the norm. Not at all.
Why would I do that? I can email you and talk to you. I mean, we can text now right away. And these are basic principles, right? Things that we're showing. But you can do that in your organization. These are innovations that you produce so that you don't go back.
You know, they're like you just said, these are simple, these are basic ideas that we're talking about. But honestly, when you allow leadership to be what it is, it really is pretty basic. They're just ideas that you have to be aware of, and then you have to strip away yourself. Right? You have to just kind of strip away yourself, go, oh yeah, that's pretty obvious on that side of things. But yeah, when I was thinking about this and just kind of bring back innovation to this very simple wrap-up to me, and again, I'm a bit simple-minded, so when you say basic, I'm good with this. As I thought about the whole idea of diversity, breeds creativity, which leads to innovation, and you asked right out of the get-go without knowing I was going this direction, the whole idea of the Saison, is that the Saison season? Saison. I say it wrong, but it's okay.
It's not Italian. Saison.
But that's it, right? But that's it. I actually was raised cooking Italian. My wife is a Southern woman whose family, came from the Philippines through Hawaii. So in our home,
When are we having dinner?
exactly right. That's exactly it. So in our home, we have the most unusual food, and also when I started hanging around some of our Puerto Rican friends are like, you got to try this seasoning. You're like, yes, I do, and I have to start figuring out how to cook with it. And now I'm making now barbecue with Saison on it, and people are going like, what is that? I'm like, well, I took this, I took that, I took this. It was the diversity.
Right.
Brett, I love to cook, so I was like, I'm going to be creative. Also, I'm being innovative.
Right.
In that final dish, and it's actually reaching more people because I'm sitting here feeding your palate, feeding their palate, and they're going, wait a second, what is this? And you're introducing people to new tastes and new ideas that they may not otherwise have been exposed to. So I was kind of my reason for the recipe for global success is to sit there and go, let's stop thinking we know it all and start appreciating what it is that we do have.
Yeah, I was thinking that when you're speaking of innovation, that to make it a little bit tangible for those who are watching, it's having diversity in your organization, bringing people together, having creativity, and then brainstorming on ideas. Brainstorming on ideas for different services, different products, different ways of doing things, and through that you will produce a renewal of how can I say it? A renewal of action, a renewal of service, things that you want to get done, and you don't have to continue doing it the way you've done. And it should always get better, right?
Absolutely.
Nobody's going to renew or do something new, but it's old.
And that speaks to competitive advantage, which once we come back from the break, we'll go to competitive advantage. And that was one of those things I thought about is maybe we could simply say this about diversity. Is that accepting that other people's I love that, I can't even speak, that other people have their own perspective and that their perspective is actually valid. If that gave you a competitive advantage in business or just value in life, why would we not embrace it? So let's talk about competitive advantage that's gained because of these three ingredients after we get back from the sponsor break. All right. Yeah, that's the whole thing. Whole idea is finding our own spot, which we're working on. Which we actually have a few good leads on, so hopefully that'll be a piece of it. Now we can offer perspectives and innovations. Exactly. Nice. I think I'm actually All right, so we're back. We're going to talk a little bit about competitive advantage. I guess first off, why don't we start with what that means?
Well, let's go back to the beginning of what we were talking about, global leadership. If you want to be if you want to have competitive advantage, you have to be globally competent. You cannot think that what you're going to do is only local in terms of. I mean, you could have advantage in a local hemisphere, but you want to have a broader influence. So when you want to be have competitive advantage, it means that you are a step ahead of others. You are always ahead of the game. You are innovative. You are an entrepreneur that's leading the way, right? We're like the leader we talked about last time in the front, pulling people behind. And so you're competing at another level. Basically, you're in a class all by yourself. So, for instance, we could use Nike, right? Not too many can compete with Nike. They own the sneaker industry. Do they or do they not?
Yeah, absolutely.
They have competitive advantage.
Yeah, absolutely.
And who else? Who can compete with them?
And the interesting thing is what they did early on in their brand is they determined that the only thing that they were going to do was focus solely on sports. They were going to own sports. When other people were out there going, well, we're making sneakers, they're saying we're going to own sports. It had nothing to do with the sneakers, right? And now it's all to do with the sneakers. And yet they're constantly evolving. Now it's sportswear, and they're opening into so many markets in many ways because they embrace the diversity of sports.
Yeah.
Right? And how many people is sports touched. And yeah, it's a huge brand for that purpose.
Yeah, and they started only with men's sneakers and then men apparel, and then they moved on to women, and then they moved on to different sports, and then so they were diverse in their creativity. They did not stay in just one little sector, one little idea. They broadened their influence.
I think that is one of those things that I wish more small businesses would understand. That you can go into a very narrow segment, a very narrow industry segment, right? Sports apparel. In the grand scheme of our economy, that's a very narrow, healthcare, food. It's a narrow sector. Look at the size of that business.
Oh, yeah.
Because they were diverse within a sector,
yeah.
Right? And so often small businesses think like, well, I serve this. And it's like, well, you think you serve that. In fact, you serve this.
Yeah.
And if they'd start to open their eyes up, they'd recognize the services that they're offering and the products that they're offering have such a massive market ahead of them, but they tend to think only through their own eyes.
Yeah, and global leaders and global businesses and global organizations don't necessarily at the first moment of inception start globally. They start locally. They start with, like you said, a main idea, a main focus, a main service, but then they broaden, they expand that and they get global. See, this is the thing, global leadership, it takes time, it takes energy, it takes hard work. So a lot of people would rather stay local, rather stay domestic, rather stay in the box.
Yeah,
in
absolutely.
The box thinking. Right?
In the box thinking, which is actually, so let's come back to that's a little old paradigm, but let's go to a quick sponsor break and let's kind of wrap this up a little bit in the whole idea of being globally responsive. Again, understanding that the globe doesn't mean just the world; it could be global, which is beyond your own thinking, right? And be responsible, which I think is a key thing. I'd like you to really explain as to why global responsibility. What does that mean? And kind of wrap that all back together.
I'll give you a hint. It's green, but it's not money.
There we go. All right. All right. I think I must have got out of order in some of my things here, but let me see. Okay, we're good. All right. All right, so we're back, and let's just jump right into it. Globally responsible.
I think that being globally responsible is actually the charge for every human being, right?
Yeah.
We have to care about not only what we want and what we desire and what we launch to achieve now, but also for future generations. You have kids.
Yep.
You don't want to leave the world a worse place. You
Right.
want to leave it better. And so every business has the responsibility, every organization, every movement, every nonprofit, to leave this world a better place. And I think a lot of companies are doing that by going green, right? They're, recycling, making resources and materials that are reusable, and caring about the earth, right? And we don't mean to be all like, oh, we're so soft.
No,
Because some people believe that, like, to be globally responsive, you're soft. Or no, you have to care about the earth, man. Like, don't get me started.
And I don't mean to be a greedy capitalist here, but when it comes right down to it, right? Whether you believe in the climate change debate, that's irrelevant.
Right.
There's a major industry around being green, which is simply nothing more than be responsible.
Right.
Go way back to, well, you probably weren't born yet, 1970s, when, if you remember, it was like, the whole pick up your litter campaign. And I remember they had this Indian that would walk down the street or the road, and he was crying because there was just trash along the side of the road. Well, now it's part of our society to think, pick up after yourself. That's all that is just be responsible. And you're absolutely right. It doesn't mean to, you don't have to buy into a climate change debate. It's just simply saying, care for that which you've been given. Because we all share in common the environment. And that environment doesn't necessarily just mean the air around you. It means the air, where you work. That's the environment that you work in. Yeah. It may not be in your job description to empty a trash can. But here's the reality. Even the CEO should be emptying the trash can. Nobody's above caring for their environment.
Right.
And whether it's going green for the sake of our kids, let's do it. Or whether it's going green for the sake of making money. Yeah. Let's do that too.
But a lot of folks don't want to do it because it takes time and it's something else I have to worry about, or just being plain old lazy,
That's it.
And whether you believe in global warming or not, whether you believe, how about the trends that are happening? That's another aspect of global leadership, is knowing the trends that are happening around us and in the world, So when we talk about globalization, now it's easier for us to be global, right? To be responsible, because now I can talk to somebody in China through social media, through Skype or something, through GoToMeeting or GoToWebinar. It's really easy. It's really quick. So now we can connect with other people. Now we have no excuses to be globally responsible.
Yeah, and that's exactly. And I know you said be globally responsive and globally responsible. I think that it's highly irresponsible right now not to be aware of the needs of those around us in the world. As humans, we should care for one another. First and foremost, that's it. We should care for the good of the other people who share this planet with us. But I also was able to sit with, through a class being taught to 9th and 10th graders here in Rochester. It's called social entrepreneurship. And the whole idea is to find a means of creating revenue, creating jobs by solving societal problems. And I love that concept. So when we're responsive to a need, we can actually not only benefit somebody else, we can benefit ourselves. And whether it's altruistic or whether it's for profit, that's not a bad thing if you're actually helping somebody in the end.
That's right.
So I love that thought. And there's a few other things you said that are just really great. I wish we could rewind this and watch it. So let's just go to a quick sponsor break, wrap this segment up. Let's come back and just kind of give some closing thoughts on today.
Oh, yeah.
Nice tease, Peter. There we go. Yeah, we just need to figure out a way of making that a little bit bigger, but we'll figure that out. That'll be fun later. All right. So today we basically talked really about a recipe for global leadership, and I something I would like to have for later episodes. What we talk about today are these broad spectrum ideas that are real, but also I think I'd like to talk about respecting the culture of other areas and how that can actually make a difference, which will be fun. But so we talked about diversity, how diversity leads to creativity and or even breeds creativity versus leads to it. And those two combined create innovation, which gives you a market advantage, competitive advantage. And then we talked about using those advantages and using those things that we need responsibly around the globe. So I think it's very powerful, and it's not like that's earth-shattering information.
Right. For some, it may very well be.
That's interesting, right? I mean, we hear it all the time, but if we put it in perspective, what it can mean for our individually, collectively, it's powerful. It's simplistically powerful.
Well, I'll give you. There's a great book that I think that our viewers should check out. Definitely, it's called The Extreme Future by James Canton. I think I shared that with you before. And he speaks of trends, and most of these trends, they're right on target. And let's say even in the United States, it's forecasted that by 2040, the major ethnicity in the United States will be Hispanic. They will be leading the way, okay. And then also the biggest workforce in the United States will be Hispanic. Also, women will be leading more in organizations than ever before. So what are organizations doing to prepare for that? If you just say, oh, whatever, that's not true, that's irrelevant, then sooner or later you're going to become obsolete, because you cannot fight something that's already happening, I mean, and so
you can't fight birth rates. Right, I mean, people are going to have children, and these things are going to happen.
And so there's different trends that are already happening and things that are already in place. That some things we can stop, some things you can't. So what you have to do is put your place in a position. You have to position yourself. Mm-hmm. You have to be culturally agile. That's the one that I wanted to speak of. Is that you have to be effective across different cultures, effective across different zones of traditions and paradigms and thoughts. And go ahead, I know you want to say
No,
something.
I just love that cultural agility. That is really a great way of looking at that. And what does that mean? It's like really being able to just kind of jump in at any point in time and have a positive impact.
Yeah.
So that is a great thing. So all right, with every week we give you the last word. So what's the last word you want to say?
I think the last word is just, to make this a little bit more feasible and tangible for you is, how can I be culturally agile? How can I be a cross-cultural and global leader? It's really simple, folks. Look in your cell phone. If everybody in your cell phone looks like you, talks like you, is from where you're at, you're not global, you're not cross-cultural, you're very much stuck in your own mindset. You have the same lenses as everyone who you speak with. But if you can start exposing yourself to different people, different nationalities, different culture, go to different clubs, go to different associations, mingle with folks who don't dress like you, who are taller, smaller, chubbier, handsome, pretty, not so pretty, whatever. It doesn't matter. Stretch yourself so that you can become more culturally agile. And when you become more culturally agile, that will produce creativity and innovation, and you and your organization will never be the same.
Couldn't have said it better, which is why you always have the last word. Thank you, sir. All right. Peace out. We're good. And all right. Are we off?
Tim's like really
What's that? Yeah. He's on the other end trying to test.